of course, everyone probably knows by now that I'm George Zaharoff. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Yes.
And I am in Chicago. I am born and raised in Chicago. I went to DePaul University and I majored in operations management and manufacturing and purchasing because, my father did not want me to go into fashion or anything to do with that. And so at that time, I went into operations management because I was always fascinated with the world of commerce on a global level. I loved how the movement of people and goods and money really excited me. And there's not that many at that time, not many artistic professions that you could go into that was global, except at that time it was fashion and music. And so after I finished DePaul University, I moved to Europe and we started showing in Milan, Italy. So I was literally 20, 21 years old. And it was a fragrance that changed everything that Nordstrom took, and it changed my life. And so it's been quite a long time. And I've done from fragrances to fashion, to fragrance, to accessories. I've done a lot.
You said your dad didn't want you in fashion?
No, my dad did not want me to have anything to do with fashion.
Did you express interest in it? Is that how you knew?
From a little boy. I mean, since I was 3, 4 years old, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and little boys do not become fashion designers, especially in the 75, 80. They don't become fashion designers. And so I was, as a little boy, what do you want to be, George, when you grow up? And I would say, I want to be a fashion designer. And I would be told, no, you want to be a fireman or a lawyer or a doctor. And the times are much different then than they are now, so.
Yeah. So why were you interested in fashion in the first place? What influenced you that way?
So I think my mother was a fashion designer. And at that time in the 80s, she did clothes for Dynasty and Dallas and, the Reagans and all. Wow. It was at that time of the height of it all. And, in the 80s, you had a lot of drama with fashion. And so I just kind of enjoyed that. I loved it. And I would play in the yards of fabric at the factory of my mother's. And so it heavily influenced me.
Were you meeting those folks that were on TV?
I was. My mother would take myself and my younger sister, and we would go out to Los Angeles. And then I would be in, 7th or 6th, 7th grade. And I'd be telling the kids, I just got, I stayed at the Beverly Hilton and I met, Michelle Lee. And they're like, oh yeah, sure. Or Baron Hilton, because he had a penthouse. He lived on top of the Beverly Hilton, and good friends with my mother. And so I grew up in all of that. So I ate that all up.
No wonder.
Ate it all up.
No wonder you wanted to. I would want that too if that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
That must have been a hard feeling to fight to do something else, because that's what I did in college too.
What do you mean?
I wanted to do arts, and I was kind of forced to go in a different direction, like business. And I freaking hated. I was a business major for 2 years. I never finished because I hated it so much. The accounting and this, that, and the other, and I hated it so bad. I never did well at it because I wanted to be an artist. But my dad said there's no money in that, and don't do that. It doesn't make blah blah blah. So
Scott, there's a lot of people in this world that go and exist as they move through life, living life of quiet desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something. There were two things that I did not want to do. I did not want to live a life of quiet desperation, and I did not. The term starving artist was unacceptable to me. So those two things was on my list of that.
Yeah.
I did not want to live life of quiet desperation, and I did not want to be a starving artist. And so with all the ups and downs, when you're in the fashion business, there's so much that you have to adapt and change. And, because as you move through, as a fashion house, your partners go in and out of business. There's the economic swings. You're at the whims of the retailer. It is not an easy thing, especially with the coronavirus and all of the retail that is shutting down or has shut down.
Yeah.
Is that you constantly have to reinvent yourself. And
Yes.
so with that in mind, I always had to be quick and nimble and change and morph and of course be able to be creative and relevant.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that want to be like that, what you just said, quick and nimble, change, relevant. They want to change with the times, but for whatever reason, they just stay on the couch with their potato chips or whatever. What caused you? Where did you get that?
What did you say?
Where did you get that drive? What caused you to do that? Because you could have very easily just stayed on the couch and not been quick and nimble, or not changed with the times, or not been up and coming, known with what's trendy or what what I'm saying? You could have just stayed.
Well, I've always been told what I couldn't do or what I couldn't become. And there's certain benchmarks in my life that have happened that really was a huge change. It shifted the way I saw things. And basically what it comes down to, I just didn't care what anyone had to say. I just didn't care, honestly, if someone felt a certain way, because there's dream killers out there. And like you said, a lot of people sit on their couch, on their armchair, and they dictate and tell what people can't do. Oh, why bother? He's a dreamer, or the economy, it's so hard. I can't explain it to you. Even now, before I launched the fragrances, there was discussions that I was too old to start the fragrances. And, so you hear those things and you can't help but start to think, is that true? Do you know what I mean?
No.
I don't feel old. Do I crawl in a hole because, and you don't start anything new? It's just so strange to me. And so you're never too old to start something. It's all what's up in here and what's inside you. And so I don't know. I always say, F everyone. Like, who gives a shit?
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something then. Okay, so say there's a kid watching this right now who just stumbles across my channel, which inevitably there will be, or somebody who's 50, 60 years old and are seeing this and inspired by it. And they say to themselves, how do I not give a shit? I've been doing it for 60 years. Is that something that somebody can change overnight and learn how to do?
It's not overnight. It takes a lot of, it all depends on so let me tell you what really changed. Okay. Because I have my affirmations, and I had put affirmations everywhere. My mirror, at the time there was a Filofax. I started putting them in my clothes, labels in my clothes and in the fragrances. These affirmations that you become what you believe. I will allow no person's opinion, no influence to enter my mind, which does not harmonize with my purpose. And I went through this period of about a year where if someone or something did not harmonize with my purpose and my dreams, it was locked out. And so I had to condition myself to not give a shit, especially when you come from a Southern European background where it's all about superstition. And, and so I had to fight through a lot. I really did. And then you get into this rhythm where instead of the negative, it's positive. And so instead of the darkness, you become the light. And when there was darkness, I called it for what it was and I rejected it.
Yeah.
So you could teach yourself, but I don't know. It's all in our heads. We sabotage ourselves. That's what we do. It's all up here.
Yeah.
You know, all the things that we could do. And then you have these people, you know, like for example, this individual, I know exactly at the time and place and everything. And he goes, he can't do that. He's too old. And that person that left me and went on with his life and had this ripple effect of his words. And I didn't want that for myself. I did not want me to leave a situation with somebody where my words and my mouth discouraged or created some kind of negative ripple effect, because that shit all comes back to you. What you put out into the world, when you take a rock and you throw it into the water, the rock hits the water. And what happens? The sound, which is the energy that goes out into the universe, but then you have the ripple effects of one rock going into the water, and you have these ripple effects that go far, far out into the, you know, and it ripples back to you. If it hits a wall, it comes right back. And so I never wanted that for myself. And I try to move through life with a purpose. You know, with what my purpose is and what the words I say and what I do it's very purposeful, Scott.
Mission accomplished.
Well, it's always a work in progress, right? Because I don't
know what I mean, I'm sure you're not one of those people that Google yourself or whatever, and I don't know what you know or how self-aware you are as a person, but one of the things I know, the advantage I have about you or knowing you is the community that I'm in, and we talk amongst each other and the stories of you. You know, it's amazing. It's one of the things that attracts me to your company more so than the juice. The stories of charity and talking to people like me over the phone and when they're down on the internet, and that, you know, sending them something or a card or a note, or I wonder if you're that way because of some of these instances you're talking about.
Of course. And I have to tell you something. You know, I never started a life with somebody. I never had kids. And I think for me, the only thing that will be left of me is my legacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how I see life and how I try to live my life. Yeah. Is to be a force of good, you know.
You see people and not products, I think.
Oh, for sure. I think it would be small-minded for me to think that way, especially when I've been blessed with so much. They don't matter. They don't impress me.
Yeah.
Who are you when you have all of that and then it's taken away?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so who are you when you're not defined by things? Because I think, you know, I love beautiful things. I love well-made things. I love all of that. But it doesn't define me.
Yeah. I think you're learning to not give a shit, as you said, is not just in the negative, but also in the press clippings and the awards and the accolades. I think you have to do both. And I feel that that's how you are.
I would like to think that. I mean, because I haven't changed for anybody or anything. And you know, there is shadiness, which has been a little difficult for me to swallow, you know, within the, you know, within life and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I know.
you know, I just try to live by example.
Yeah.
You know, and
100%.
Yeah.
The people I know in the community, they love you, man. So keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that, Scott. And I love them. And I love them. Yeah. And I will support this space because it's the future. You guys are the future. There's no other place that this space could go other than here. Mm-hmm. And so mark my words, and I've said this, you're going to see a couple brands rise above the rest, and I foresee them becoming global brands in their own right. That's what my crystal ball says.
I trust you. If you don't mind me bringing it back around, what was your favorite part about being a fashion designer?
Everything that is a part of everything that comes with being a fashion designer, from working with the mills, creating, designing, inspiring. You travel the world. I was on the island of Zanzibar and I created a whole collection on that. Or I was in in Tashkent or Ashgabat, and I love the colors, and I create a collection of neckwear or cufflinks, or it's just otherworldly. And then to create it, see it, and then have customers buy it, it takes things to a whole other level.
Man, so, did you have any muse or inspirations?
You know what? I think that my inspiration has always been the Zaharoff man or the Zaharoff woman. It has always been the person that is out there living their life, going after their dreams, and be it the executive, the doctor, the lawyer, the judge. And so that has always been my muse, because Zaharoff is not an age or a certain look. It's a feeling, it's drive and passion and love. And so I know it sounds corny, but even if you go to my 20s and I look at my business plans, the vision of Zaharoff, the mission has never changed to this day. And there's tons and tons of business plans and stuff that I have from my 20s, 30s, that, that's all documented. And so it's always been my customer, the man and the woman, out there kicking ass.
That's awesome. I mean, that's what it should be, in my opinion. How does George Zaharoff define fashion?
How does George Zaharoff define fashion? We lived in a day and age where you had back in the day, and it still happens, you would have Vogue, Bloomingdale's, Saks, Neiman's meet once or twice a year in Paris and go through all of the showcasings of what they're going to show that year to push through the system, because the fashion business is billions and billions of dollars, and it's very well-oiled machine. And I think that although some things have not changed, for example, the colors, the colors and the trends are dictated 5 years in advance. And so when you see all pink, all blue, all, vermilion, that has been decided by DuPont 5 years ago, because they create the paints and the dyes that goes to the mills for the yarns and the cars and the upholstery. So, and what it does is it creates trends and newness. People are constantly buying new and updating things. And so that still exists. But I think that because of the internet, what we see and what we're exposed to is no longer the pages of Vogue or what Giorgio Armani or Chanel is showing. It's morphed to this personal style of whatever it is that you want. And that goes with what we're living in our day and age where, it's become the iPhone, everything that is personal to us and our style, as opposed to this dictation of what you should wear and not wear.
Yeah. I always wondered if that was true, because the reason I'm saying that is because I had heard that very exact line that you just said in Devil Wears Prada. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but the lady that was playing the high fashion, I can't remember her name.
That's right. It was Anna Wintour or Meryl Streep, and she was talking about the cerulean belt and
good memory.
And the sweater, the blue sweater that the girl was wearing. Yes, that's very true.
That's interesting. I know everybody's here to talk about you, but if you would allow me, I'll tell you how I got interested in loving fashion. And I'll be brief about it.
Go ahead, please.
Mine is, I grew up with a father who is a mechanic and an auto body man since he was 17. My introduction to fragrances was a bottle of Brut under the cupboard that was hardly ever used. And that was the only fragrance I knew was Brut and Old Spice. They only got used on a Friday night when he put on his best t-shirt and went somewhere. But there was no fashion. My dad was not into any of that stuff. And he was a lot, probably like your father, just old school tough. He wanted me to work with my hands and be in the garage. But my dad adopted me. And so he kind of wanted to toughen me up and be manly. So he put me in sports and he put me in football. And because I liked football, I naturally started wanting to watch it, which my dad hates sports. He 100% hates sports. He hates football. He hates basketball, but he put me in it to toughen me up because I wasn't his kid. He wanted to get me tough. So because I started watching sports, when I would watch the big games, mainly like the NBA, I would watch Michael Jordan from Chicago pull up to a game in a Armani suit or a Canali suit. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. Where do you find things like that? And so then naturally I went to a store and saw Michael on the cover of a GQ. And back then those magazines were awesome because they were this thick and they were nothing but ads and fragrance samples. I loved those magazines. So I would just read through the GQs and tear out all the fragrance samples and rub them on me and look at all the nice suits and the Bollies and all that. And that's how I got into liking fashion. And my dad created this monster of liking sports and he hates it, and liking fashion and he hates it. It's hilarious. That's how it happened.
I love it though. I think it's great. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
And then, me being in art. So, and I like architecture and art and all that stuff. So
is that what you wanted? Did you want to go into architecture? Is that what you wanted?
No, I've been all over the place. I wanted to do I didn't really have a singular, I'll be honest with you. I wish I could talk to the old me, but I didn't have a singular purpose. I was like, one minute I was like, oh, I want to draw for Marvel. I have Marvel tattoos and these are actually my drawings. And I'm like, one minute I wanted to draw for Marvel. One minute I wanted to be a fashion designer. And one minute I wanted to draw this. And one minute I wanted to be an illustrator. And I never could make up my mind what I wanted to do.
Now that's another thing that's very important is that
every time you say that, I take notes.
That's funny. No, I'm just saying that's why moving through life with purpose is that if you move through life with a scattered brain, you're going to get a scattered life.
Yeah.
And what I do is I throw seeds to the ground. I don't work on one thing. At any given time, I probably have 10 to 15 projects going on. And I know that maybe 12 of them won't work out, but I know that if one or two will. And I'm always working on something at all times. And it's kind of funny. If you look at my desk, I'm home right now, but if you go and you look at my desk, it's covered. And someone came in and said, your desk gives me anxiety. And I said, if you only knew what I was working on, if my desk give you anxiety, you would be dizzy to know all of the things that are being juggled right now because you're moving towards something. It's like this, I can't explain it to you. It's it's like this force just moving, it's just moving through life just with, it's just going through this,
but they're like puzzles. They all fit together.
Yeah.
And it makes a picture when you're done.
That's right. And that way, if something doesn't go through, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't believe I wanted this so bad. I'm so depressed. I go, no. Keep moving forward because that happened. That means that something else is coming down the line for you better. And so you just have to keep moving forward and not get bothered by the noise of something not working out. Okay, then there's something else. And you keep moving forward. And it's interesting how life unfolds itself for you.
Yes, absolutely. I have as one of my questions, how do you handle the stress? It's like, I wrote them down. It's right here. What do you do to handle stress? So I'll segue in.
So I meditate. Okay. I have been doing transcendental meditation since I was 19. I have been working out. I've been doing cardio and working out for the past, 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. The thing with COVID, threw a little bit of it off, but, and I don't panic.
Okay.
And so when I get anxiety, I just said, you know what, just take a deep breath, keep moving forward, keep doing your thing, because I realized that when you panic or you're emotional, you don't make the right decisions. And if you have clarity and you're able to think clearly and objectively, you're able to make better decisions.
And you're blessed with those gifts, because not everybody can set aside their emotions or not give a shit.
Well, and you know what? That's their downfall. I know through trial and error, because I grew up in a Southern European family that's all about drama and hysterics and
I'm sorry.
And trauma, right? And so it's the truth. And so I just won't have it, because I know that if I do, it will not benefit me or my dreams. Honest to God, it's like I won't accept it.
Good. That's awesome.
But it took me a while to get there.
Yeah, it wasn't overnight.
That's right.
Can I get you just a little bit, if you will, if you feel like it, kind of tell us a little bit about your successes in the fashion industry, like name drop a little bit. And then also just a little bit, you don't have to spend all day, about some of the failures and what you learned from it, if you could do both.
I think that, okay, so what do you mean name drop? What do you mean?
Well, like what you didn't just make clothes and that was it. I know you had to work for some big companies, and you probably felt very successful doing that and brought some prestige. And I'm sure at the time it was very exciting. So I'd love to hear about that.
I don't think it was a certain level of success. I think it became complacency.
Okay.
I always, because to be out there, you have to be fighting, right? Because every collection, every week, you would get a call Monday morning of what your sales were, which stores were selling, which stores were not, it's not, and I've been selling to Nordstrom since I was 19, 20 years old.
Really?
And they don't keep you around because you're a pretty face. You need to move product. Mm-hmm. And so it's a testament to how much I've had to focus on the customer. A lot of people, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but, there's some things online that I see that, he wasn't that big. It's like, bitch, get your ass out there and you do what I was doing. If you could sit there and talk from afar and say, oh, you know what, it's like, try it. Just for a minute, try it, before you judge. And so actually it's like misinformed. I go, they're misinformed. But I had been with Marks. We were doing suits, shirts, ties, formal wear, outerwear, everything. I mean, we were a lot of stuff, accessories. And that was with Hardmarks. And Hardmarks filed bankruptcy in 2009. And you can't find partners who do this kind of stuff at the level in which I was existing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that time, Brooks Brothers came along, and I had the Brooks Brothers license, and Brooks Brothers did all my stuff, but they went into bankruptcy. And so these things affect you.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to adapt. I can't boo-hoo it. I have to adapt with it. Okay, I can't, I don't have the $100 million to buy a factory to make clothing, but you know what? I got this. Let me try the fragrance. Let me do this. I could do accessories. There's other things I could do. And that's sort of what, you see here. You see a survivor. You see someone who's quick and nimble. You see someone who has learned a lot from the highs and lows of life. And I'm very fortunate.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Did 9/11 change a lot of stuff that happened in the fashion industry?
Of course it did. I mean, when 9/11 happened, I was supposed to be sold to a large company. And that was the day of 9/11. And because of that, the retail landscape at that time was terrible. And so it threw me into bankruptcy, and it threw the company that was going to buy me into bankruptcy. And it wasn't because of sales. It was because of it's a long story. It's a long, so it did. But then I picked myself up, and you keep going. But it was during the times of the low times in my life where you learn the most lessons. I always say that it's the times where you are at the lowest, getting to back on your feet to reach back up, picking yourself up, dusting the dust off of you, brushing the dust off of you is the greatest moments of growth in one's life. And I think that as I move through life, it's those moments that really have taught me a lot. And one of them is complacency.
Yeah.
The moment you exhale, is the moment you start losing, because you always have to be fighting the good fight. You always have to fight. And what I mean by fight, to be in the global marketplace and to be a part of it, you have to constantly be evolving, creating, doing, growing. You can't just say, I'm going to take a break now because I'm making $5 million a year in royalties. I'm going to sit back now because I'm happy with that. The moment, the times of my life where I did that, it just, you're no longer on top of your game, and you're learning about what's going on in the marketplace, and you're no longer being innovative. And so the complacency is a bad word around here.
Gotcha. Wow. So you had your ups and you had your downs, and you kept moving forward, and you adapted, and you were quick and nimble. And so then you just kind of reinvented yourself with the fragrance game?
Yes. Yes, actually. Look, fragrances have always been in my heart. And because back in the 90s, it was very successful. And it wasn't like the business went down, and I closed things up. I was at my peak. I was 29 years old. And I had spent the next, however long, 2 decades dreaming about, going back into the fragrances. And so it's something that I love this. I love this part of creation and design.
Yeah.
And so I think it shows. I think it shows how much I love and put into everything.
Do you, I don't know, I hope this isn't classified as a dumb question. Do you love one more than the other, fashion or fragrances, or are they on the same playing field, or what?
You know what? I am just, the one thing, so it's not, so what I love about fragrance is that you're able to put all your passion and your vision into one product and get it out there very quickly.
Yeah.
It has to be done right. And it's not easy to do, but it's like a song. You know, it's like putting the work into a song and putting it out into the universe where it can now go all over the world and people could now find out who you are. And so the thing is that you like music, like fashion, you have to constantly be you need new things out there. You need to be putting new things. You need to be putting your artistry out into the universe. I think I don't know. That's a good question, Scott.
Yeah, it's funny that you said fragrances were like music, because they have notes.
That's right. Well, and it's all art, right?
Yeah.
It's all art, music, fragrance, fashion. It's art. You know,
does this what I perceive, and you and I have two different goals, but what I perceive of you being successful, does this make you want to do more things now back on the fashion side, or are you content where you are?
No. So now I'm finding myself in a place where, what do I want? And which I'm very happy that because we had the flagship store on Oak Street, which was about $80,000 a month rent, and the nightmare of the pandemic. It would have. I can't explain it to you, but I had prayed on it in February of last year of whether or not I wanted this. I wanted to continue moving forward with the store and the fashion. And I can't explain it to you. And I said, you know what? I just think that I want to progress with the fragrances and let's see where it takes me. And so, and the following month was the pandemic and everything got shut down. And in fashion, you have to plan it out a year and a half in advance. And so it would have cost me millions of dollars had I moved forward with that. And I did it. And so I find myself in a position where if Zaharoff could be known as a fragrance and accessory house, an American luxury fragrance house, I'd be happy with that. Okay. I think fashion has a stress about it that I don't know if I want to go back to that unless it's online. But if I could do accessories and fragrances, because there's the women's coming, there's going to be two flankers here. I've got the Z creators being worked on. I have a GZ George Zaharoff Privé collection next fall, and the women's. And so there's a lot going on.
I'm going to have to keep donating plasma.
Huh?
I'm going to have to keep donating plasma. Damn you.
You're funny. So there's a lot going on. We'll see what the gods of fate have in store.
One of the reasons why I was asking that is because a while back, I think it was when it was colder, you were rocking this amazing gray cashmere scarf and it said Zaharoff on it on the label. And I was like, I went to the site immediately. I was like, oh my God, is that on the site? And I'm looking and I'm like, I can't find it. What the hell, man?
Yeah, that was part of I wore today. That's part of my older collections. And I have a closet. Like I bought a coat off of eBay.
Yeah.
And so I have it in a box. I'm going to do an unboxing with a video, but I miss it, but we'll see what happens. I'm open to anything.
Hey, did Claude make the fragrances from the 90s or was that somebody else? Okay,
No.
so you've known Claude for a long time.
And Claude, and that's why when you find a perfumer who knows who knows who you are,
Mm-hmm.
you don't change it. And with Claude, the men's the signature it's so beautiful, and and the flankers that came out, the Noir, the Royale, the Rosé, that's a back. There's black pepper. There's and some other stuff. There's a gourmand, and so signature is so beautiful that by tweaking certain notes, it just makes it into a different fragrance. I've got Royale X coming out, and so there's a lot coming out. There's some beautiful fragrances coming that I'm excited about.
And I'll have every last one of them.
Yes, you will. Yeah, you will.
I cannot wait. I can't wait for even some of the reviewers for their stuff. I'm super excited for them. I look at it like, I'm just going off on a tangent for some stupid reason, but I like it when guys like TLTG, Russ, and Justin or whoever shine, because when the light shines, it shines on everybody. It helps everybody. It's not just them. And I don't think people understand that. And that's where my sports come in. Like Tiger Woods, he does so good at golf. Then he brings all the advertising money and all the cameras, and all of a sudden everybody's getting rich because of Tiger.
It's elevating everybody.
Yes, I guess that's the better way to say it.
and I'm gonna be very careful how I say this, is that I just wanted to show the community how it should be done.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. And so
I have context now. Yeah. I got you.
and if you really think about it, Scott, it's a year and a half it took to put this all together. And it was my personal investment into these individuals, that I wanted to show. I wanted to show how it can be done. And I did it as a true collaboration. And there's a beginning and an end. So I'm not, right now it's happening. I did a run. I'm doing one run, and that's it. Once they're gone, they are gone. I will never, ever make them again.
Oh, wow.
And so that's it. Because of the effort to go into producing everything, yeah. I'm not doing this again because I have other stuff happening too. So this is coming in. It's produced. Once it's gone, I'm on to the next. I'm not going to backtrack.
So you're telling us to not go to sleep on this one.
Well, it's up. I think with the run, I think that we'll see how it's received. It'll be interesting to see if with the community. We'll see what happens, but it's all first class. Everything was created by these creators and myself. You'll see.
Okay. So you basically, reinvented yourself, and you got into the fragrance game. You stayed in touch with Claude, and you're making these killer fragrances. We all know that, with the signature and everything I've got over here, and you've got all the fragrances coming out. Tell me, how did the pandemic reshape your business? What did you do to change, to be quick, to be nimble, as you say?
I did something that I was scared to do. That was when we launched the fragrances, I went through exclusively with Nordstrom. We were supposed to open up Barney's New York, and a week before we were going to ship, they filed bankruptcy and closed, which we would have taken the loss on that one. And, these small perfume brands that were at Barney's, they got hurt the most because Barney's demanded sole distribution. And, were the main source of the U.S. for a lot of these brands. They were the United States distribution, and so so that happened. When the pandemic happened, Nordstrom sold out 1 week into it, and for the first time ever in my history, Zaharoff opened up the store, the Zaharoff online store, to start taking fragrance orders directly. And that was a game changer for us because Nordstrom takes, I shouldn't say Nordstrom, let me be general, because when you work with the retailers, they take, for every $100, they take 70 of it. And so, and that was a game changer for us. That was a game changer for us where we were able to open up and create a whole new business for Zaharoff. So it was a game changer for us. So the pandemic did that.
By being online helped you?
By being online, by opening the Zaharoff boutique, the Zaharoff online store, because you couldn't get Zaharoff online in the past.
Now, obviously, maybe I shouldn't say obviously, but to me, obviously the content creators, I don't know what they like to be called, the influencers, the YouTubers, whatever, have had a big impact on your business as well. How did you see that?
So with the influencers, I think the community in itself, I think, what is it that you're trying to ask? I'm trying to understand it.
Do you feel like the influencers, do you feel like they had a big part in helping getting the word out in the fragrance community? And
for sure. I mean,
sorry.
I think that the community as a whole, not just the content creators, but the community as a whole, you had the content creators, but also the subscribers, the community, the people. I mean, even on this side, Scott, I mean, with the Z creators and creating and allowing these channels, these content creators to create their own fragrance, it's going to change the category,
Yeah.
Because I think that what is being done here is going to elevate everyone. And so, for me, has the community helped Zaharoff? Absolutely. I'm so grateful for that. And that's why I wanted to give back.
Yeah.
I wanted to give what was given to me.
It's awesome. I never heard of you a year ago. I had no idea who you were a year ago. And if I did hear your name, I was sometimes confuse it with, what is that company called, Zara? As I know they had fragrances, so I'd get confused, because I didn't really know you from the Man on the Moon or know your product. But there was Ross on one of his channels, and I flipped to it, and I was like, yeah, I can relate to that guy. And every time he would suggest something, he loves his Aqua Sensual or whatever. Every time he would, say something, I was like, I like that too. We're very close. And he was like, listen, don't take my word for it. He's like, go in my link. He's got a free sample. And I was like, well, free sample? Hey, what's there to lose? So I went in there and got your free sample. And then when you signed it, you pay for the shipping, you send me a sample and you sign it? What kind of person is this?
And that's when you talk about, the influencers or the content. I mean, first of all, the poster behind you is from 1999. It's a vintage poster. That was a postcard that Neiman Marcus sent out to their customers in 1999. And so the reason why, for me, I always focused on my customer and not online. I was a very private person. And it was when Nordstrom wanted to take the fragrances, they're like, you're nowhere online and you need to be online. And I died because I was a very private person. If you go back, anything past, 2015, there's nothing on me. I'm nowhere. Little things here and there, but I don't have any content because I was private. I focused on I was busy selling and visiting stores. And so the Zaharoff website, I wanted the focus to be on the fragrances. That's why there's no references to my heritage or my or my past, which is going to be the Zaharoff website's going to go through an overhaul now where I could actually put the work that I've done in the past. But when I launched the fragrances, I wanted people to just focus on that and not look or be distracted with anything else.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
And so you were talking about the community. That's why I did free sampling. I got over 35, it's almost close to 40,000 samples and 40,000 postcards I've signed, you know, with my compliments. And so it's something that it's how do so it's a give and a take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that way, if someone didn't like the fragrance, they didn't blind buy it.
Yeah.
You know? And so I had to put my best foot forward and say, this is what I created, you know?
Yeah. It's a masterpiece. I was just like, those things, the fact that you sent it on your dime, you know, you didn't say, oh, for $5.99, I'll send it to you or whatever. And the fact that you signed it and, you know, then I open this thing up and spray it and, you know, almost fall down the floor, you know, because you're always, me as a collector, I'm always looking for the Holy Grail juice. And I felt like there's a few, and that's one of them for me. And yeah, I mean, never anybody can accuse me of this if they want to, but it's the Holy Grail of juices and I love it. And I was just like, okay, I have to buy this. I have to buy this. Well, even if it sucked, I have to buy it because you signed it and sent it to me. And like, I always wonder, man, I always wonder when somebody does it. And I know I had one person say to me one time, well, look, not everyone's George, because I was talking about this, but I'm always wondering when somebody sees somebody doing something the right way, why do they allow their ego to get in the way and not say, hey, why don't I try to do what he's doing? He's in the community. He's giving his time. He's helping people. He's talking to people. He does these things. And they wonder why they don't get ahead. It always amazes me. But anyways, that's my little tangent.
Do you know why, Scott?
Ego.
It's effort. It's not, I don't think it's ego, it's effort. And when
good point.
And I come from a world where you make the effort, and it surprises me that there's so much more I want to say about this, but it's better. I think I think it will evolve to that, because eventually this online is going to be played out eventually on a global scale. And it's going to have to become that. Okay. And everything else is going to go by the wayside.
George.
Yes.
What's your greatest strength and weakness?
My greatest strength and my weakness is my heart. It's my caring heart. It's both a weakness and a strength.
Okay. Good answer. What's one thing people would be surprised to know about you?
That that I don't really care about a lot of the fluffery that someone might see on here.
Okay.
The theater, you know, like that I'm not impressed with stuff.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I'm not, no. You know, I love it, you know, because I think people, I want people to, when they come on, I want to give them a little bit of theater. I want to give them something that they might not see all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
yeah. No, I get it.
So I want to give a little bit of theater. So I think people looking at me, I think people see that I don't get impressed with stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I get it. Do you have, this is going to be tough. You don't have to answer this. Do you have a favorite fragrance content creator?
I don't.
Okay.
But, and it's not, but there's a couple that.
You don't have to answer. You don't.
Okay.
You don't have to answer. I'm going to save you. Do you think Jeremy had a big part in the fragrance industry, especially on YouTube and Instagram and all that?
So I think Jeremy, I know Jeremy. I've met Jeremy. I've spent time with Jeremy. And we've had many discussions before he launched his fragrance or around the time he was launching it. And I think that I have some thoughts about Jeremy, but what I do is I like looking at things objectively. I don't know. You know what you had said, maybe someone doesn't know about me, is that I teach. I've taught the business of fashion and menswear at Columbia on a university level. And so I'm also a teacher. And so I like looking at things objectively and analyzing the overall business. And with Jeremy, I have some thoughts about it, but I don't want it to be like, so when you're in a meeting with Nordstrom and you say, I have this idea, I want to do this, Nordstrom will say, Chanel tried it and it didn't work out. And then you go on to something else. It's not Chanel calling Nordstrom saying, I heard you're talking smack about me. It doesn't become fodder for gossip. Yeah. Whereas it's excellence, because when you have product out there and you're moving it and you have a publicly traded company, you need to be at the top of your game. You don't have time to make mistakes. No. And so I would love to give a true analysis of how I see this space, but I just think it would become fodder for gossip, or it would be something that, so how about this? Jeremy is a star. No one can take that away from him. I always say this, a star is a star is a star. Jeremy, whatever he did before fragrances, he was a star. He started his channel, he's a star. And where he is right now, he's a star. No one could take that away from him. Now, it was his first foray into creating a fragrance in the community. He was, I think it was a natural, it's where this is going. Mm-hmm. This is where this space is going. And Jeremy is the first one. But if Jeremy had not done his fragrance, I still think eventually he would have. This is where this whole thing is going, which you see now, right? It's where it's going. Because this category is a couple years behind the makeup.
Mm-hmm, yes.
The makeup. And so
beauty.
And look at the beauty. And so this is what's going to happen in this space. It's coming. It's
growing. Yep. So you don't think it's oversaturated?
No. Oh my goodness. Far from it. There's nowhere else.
I hear that talked about.
What?
I hear people mention that. It doesn't make sense to me.
They don't understand the category then, and I don't know who's saying it, so I don't want anyone to say that George Zaharoff said they don't know what. I didn't say that.
No.
I am out there. It's interesting. I don't know. This is probably going far more than what you had expected, but I am with the retailers, with the perfumers, with you guys, and I'm also a house. And so I would like to think I pretty much have my finger on the pulse of what's happening. And I'm talking with international distributors because I always want to know what the business is like, what's going on, how's it working, how is it being done? And so I think I have my finger on the pulse. I'd like to think so.
Awesome, man. No, trust me. I trust you. Have you, being in your position, have you met anybody that you've always wanted to meet, or what's the coolest person you've ever met, if you won't mind me asking?
You know what? I was very fortunate because Oscar de la Renta, Carolina Herrera, there's so many people that mentored me. And so I think I have met so many people. The one person that I never met was Madonna. That was someone that I had always wanted to meet.
Yes.
But I think I was with Carolina Herrera. Carolina Herrera is like a mother. She was very caring, such a beautiful person. And awesome. I had gone there with the president of Puig. We went to Carolina Herrera's atelier, her office in New York, and to have breakfast with her. And she said, I'm going to have a friend join us for breakfast. And she goes, I hope it's okay. It's Caroline Kennedy. And I just sat there and I turned to the president of Puig, and he goes, George, Caroline Kennedy is joining us for breakfast. And I'm still speechless. And do you know when they say the celebrities, you hear them say, they tell you not to stare at them?
Yeah.
I think here I am, I'm like this. And it's because you're looking at them and you're trying, you're trying to soak it all in. You're
I know. I know.
And that was for me, because all I could think about was the history, all of the, of everything she's been through. And so that was an awesome moment for me. Anyway.
I did the same thing. A friend of mine, a girl who's a friend, was dating the lead singer of Train, Pat. And so I would go and hang out with him a couple times, and I would just be sitting there like this. And I'm like, am I having a beer with this guy? What's going on here? This is weird.
And you're staring and trying to soak it all in, right?
And all I want to do is talk to him about his business, and all he wants to do is not talk to me about his business.
Right. And Scott, a lot of Concorde, a lot of people you would bump into flying Concorde. That's right. And first class. There's a lot of celebrities that you would bump into and have conversations with, and so you meet a lot of people that way too.
I forgot that you liked that mode of transportation. Yeah. I've seen you post about it a few times. That's so awesome. I know we just talked about this, so it kind of seems kind of silly because you told me you're not a guy who's into possessions, and I get that. But if you were to name one thing that you had that was your most cherished possession, what is that?
Like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of...
What's the one thing that you would try to save in your house if it was on fire right now? Just one thing. You can only pick one. Trying to stump you. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a fun question.
Before I lost my little pooch, it would have been Piccolo. There's nothing that, if I was running out and I had to save one thing, I don't know.
Okay.
What would be your answer? Like, what were some of the answers that you got?
I've never asked that of anybody. I just asked you. It was the first time I ever asked it. I just thought it would be an interesting question to ask somebody. I was trying to give you some different questions that I didn't give everybody.
That's a good question. There's nothing of importance to me that isn't replaceable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, you could say a watch or this or that, but I think health for me is the number one thing. I don't know if the place was, now mind you, I have a lot of stuff that I would grab, but if you tell me to get one, I couldn't.
Okay.
I would have to, because I have like 8 closets, and some of these are beautiful vintage Hermes and Versace, that I would go and grab and just, grab it and run out of the house with it.
That's partly why I'm into fragrances too. I don't know if I told you that already. I don't mean to repeat myself, but it's because I've always wanted to own those houses, Hermes, Versace. And I was like, the only way I could think to have a little bit of those companies, and I know a lot of them are under umbrellas or made by somebody else. I get that. But I feel like the only way I could have those labels in my house is through fragrances because they were somewhat cheap.
That's beautiful, and it's aspirational, and that's why fragrances are so successful.
Mhm.
That's why fragrances and accessories of the category is so successful, is because a lot of it's aspirational,
Mhm.
and it's beautiful, and it's your way to, and that's why when it comes to brands and greatness and people wanting to be a part of that greatness.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
It's
those are
beautiful.
people. Armani is a hero of mine because of what he
Yep.
designs and makes, and the way he carries himself, and the people he's met, and yada yada yada. And so I do see him as greatness, and so the best way to have something that represents him is a bottle of his fragrance. So that's
Yep.
kind of how I start.
And Armani was the same for me. I get it.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. What's your favorite food to eat?
Sushi.
Yeah. Are you on any weird diet? Are you vegan? Do you eat meats? Okay.
I'm Greek. You know,
Okay.
when I said, I don't know if you saw my Big Fat Greek Wedding, they go, oh,
Yes, I love
it's
that
okay.
movie.
I give you lamb. I make you lamb.
That's funny. Speaking of movies, what is your favorite movie? Do you like movies?
My favorite movie of all time is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And that was the one with Gene Wilder.
That was
Probably
awesome.
my all-time movie.
I mean, I can't just name one. I've got like so many.
Right?
Yeah. I like Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Roman Holiday, and because she's so freaking beautiful. And then I like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and
Very eclectic.
All over the place.
Let me ask you something. What is it that you find about old Hollywood that inspires you?
Everything seems like it has a fine line. Like everything seems sleek and streamlined, and not about a trend, but just about making something practical, but it's still fashionable. It's like the little black dress that you can wear everywhere, and it's the gray suit, and I don't know. I like everything so streamlined, and I also have it in my head because of my grandparents and whoever else, that all the things were made better, that nobody cut corners, and
Right.
yeah.
True.
So between that and how streamlined things look to me, and they just seemed more sleek and stylish, and I don't know, they seemed more sexier.
I agree with you. I agree.
Okay.
I'm with you on that one.
I like a lot of the old greats, Marilyn Monroe, and I don't know, they just seem like they did it better. What kind of music do you like, or do you?
I do EDM. I like Euro. I like electronic dance music, but it's the vocal trance, Euro vocal trance that I love.
Okay.
I love it. I love music. Yeah.
Yeah. I like a lot of the classic stuff like Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. That's what my mom listened to when I was coming up. So
you're classic rock. You like classic rock. Yeah.
She liked, she was in love with of course he was young back then, but she really loved Rod Stewart way back when he was young.
So you have young parents then?
My mom she would have been in her she'd be in her mid 70s by now, I would think.
Young.
Yeah. So yeah, she died when she was 30. So
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's it happens. It makes you who you are, like you said. You learn from it, and it's done so many good things for me. Because she was she was just a partier and kind of a hippie, and had no direction in her life, and I might have been on that same path, drinking and doing drugs and sniffing drugs and doing all that. So those events took me in an opposite direction and not do any of those things. So for me, at least. So, and my whole life is I'm successful, maybe not monetarily wise, but I'm successful in the fact that I have a complete and whole family. Yes. And for that's a big success for me because I have that. So, because I didn't. So
you should be very proud of yourself, Scott.
Yeah, I am for that as well. What are some of your favorite charities? Do you have any that you'd like to share? I know sometimes that's private.
you know, the Ronald McDonald House, the breast cancer. I've done stuff with you know, Georgie Bear. If you see Georgie Bear right here, did you see it? You know about Georgie Bear?
I've heard you talk about it in a couple of videos.
So Georgie Bear was with Build-A-Bear. I think you see the Build-A-Bear here too. Mm-hmm. Is that right there?
Yep. You talked about it with Ross. That's how I know about it.
And A Heart of Gold. I came with a book, and
I wish I would have known about it. Dang it.
This went for breast cancer. So we did this with Nordstrom. Do I have the book here? Anyway, I'll send you a book. Oh, and then I did a limited edition. This was with the German company. The German company, Herman. And so.
Awesome.
And there's only 150 of these made.
Jeez Louise.
He's missing an eye.
I see that. That's awesome.
And so, yeah, so I've done a lot of stuff with charity, actually. I love doing projects like that, you know. And then this one was a little Nordstrom visitor back in the day. He's wearing his Armani suit because I would wear suits. And so, yeah.
Cool.
So
I loved your story on YouTube, and I want to encourage people to go to YouTube to find out a more in-depth detail about your story. But I love the you know, of how you came up in the fashion world and fragrances, so they can definitely get more in depth there as well. But I'll put a link down below in my video. But also, I love that story about what you did for that gentleman overseas with the wheelchair. That was a really cool story as well. And I think that's the legend of you.
It was a year because it was in northern Ethiopia.
Okay.
And I tried everything. I tried everything other than flying there myself with it to get a wheelchair to this gentleman. I wanted to send it to the church, but I was afraid that the church would find it suitable for someone else who they felt would be in more need. Oh my God. And I can't explain it to you. I was in Atlanta from the airport to the hotel, and the driver was from Ethiopia, and he told me, if you send me, I had 2 wheelchairs. And he said that I need a wheelchair for my mother in Addis Ababa. And I go, I have 2. If you want to keep one for your mother, can you take the second one? And he did. And that's how I got it to Ethiopia. The driver from Atlanta airport to the hotel.
I watched the video. It was amazing. It was so inspiring.
But that's when you put yourself out there. I really believe this. And you're a good person, and you put that out there, you attract the forces that you need to accomplish whatever you're trying to do. I believe that.
I've learned a little bit of that from you. I've done some things that might have seemed foolish to my missus for a few people. So I got that. I've learned that from you.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown. You're a good guy, Scott.
I want to thank you so much for being here. I know you've got things to do, and you took some time out of your busy schedule to meet with me. And it means the world to me, and I'm touched. And thank you so much for everything you do for the community, not just for me. Thank you for coming on my channel. It means everything, really.
Scott, I will always be here to support you. I will always be here to support the community. As I told you, it's about elevating. Yes, and sir. For me, you know, I have my dreams and aspirations for Zaharoff and what I want to be and do and create. But I figure, like I said, I believe in true affluence is created for oneself by creating it for others first. In the process, you elevate yourself. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this for. And so I'm just hoping, my wish is to elevate everyone. And so awesome. one at a time, we will do this.
That's awesome.
It will happen.